All of you for coming out tonight. This has been a very strange day. The weather has been not very hospitable. This is an ungodly early hour for all of us if we want to have dinner. So the fact that you're here is a wonderful statement of your commitment to the bridge and to the township, and we thank you very much for making the effort to be here. Our goal here is we want to make a record of what you have to say concerning this bridge, whether you're in favor of one plan or another plan. You have an alternative that hasn't been suggested yet. If you have concerns about how things work currently, how things will work as you envision it into the future, depending on what plan is finally being adopted, we want to hear from you so that we have a record of that, so that the other supervisors who are not here tonight will have an opportunity to hear it, because it's being recorded by video, and it's also being taken down by a court reporter who's taking down every word. Not the gestures, but the words. We know so. So what we're trying to do is make that record so that we can go forward. Some of you haven't signed in because we only have, it looks like, we have 14 or 15, and there are a few more than that.
I didn't get to sign in.
Well, we would like you to sign in because I want to know who wants to speak. It'll make it a lot easier if you sign in, because then we'll have some semblance of order as to how it happens. But even more importantly than that is that if you sign in, we then have your address, your email address, so that we can send you updates as this process continues to develop. And as you know, this process has been developing since about 2003 or 2005. So it's been developing for a while, and it's going to continue to develop because we still haven't heard anything back on the 106. And so there'll be a lot more steps in the process. I should also say that there may have been some confusion, although this meeting has been advertised and it is a properly scheduled meeting. It is not a meeting as such of the supervisors. We're not here to make a decision tonight. And I think that there may have been some confusion on that earlier on in the last week or so. So to the extent that that may have happened, I apologize for that. Again, this is not to do business, but to get input from you as to what you want. Each of you individually, what do you want with regard to the bridge? Now, this is going to be a charrette of sorts. It's not exactly a true charrette, but we're here to gather and talk about ideas and try to determine what those ideas are and what the potential solutions are, what the options are, and what the answers can be. So you may want to ask yourself or yourselves, what are the issues that we want to wrestle with? And I'm going to read you a list of the kinds of issues that I think become important. And as you give your comments, if you are so moved, perhaps this will help to focus your thinking. Whether the bridge should remain, and if so, should it be one lane or two lanes? Should it be one way or two way? Whether there should be room for walking on it and bicycling on it, or that it should only be for vehicles. What is the conservation impact? What is the commercial impact? What is the convenience to the residents and in the larger sense, whether the borough, the township, just the people that live along the southern end of the Chandler Mill Road or all of Chandler Mill Road. The convenience impact. Are there alternative routes that if the bridge remains closed for a while, people can get around? And if the bridge is maintained as closed except for bicycles and pedestrians, what are the alternative routes that vehicles can travel? How do we get the bridge open fast? How do we progress and save money? The goal is not necessarily to spend as much money as we can. Should the township take the bridge back from the county? Whether it should be rehabbed or replaced? What is the impact of our decisions, of the township decisions, on the neighborhood and the surrounding area? What is the historical impact of what we're doing? What is the recreational impact for what we are doing? And what is the impact of the bridge on tourism in the area, if any? And what about questions of traffic flow, speed, quantity, and safety? There are lots of issues, and what the township decides will have a long-term impact on the immediate area, that is Chandler Mill Road and Buckoe Road, but also in the region that incorporates the whole township and potentially the borough and New Garden Township as it abuts against this area. What is our duty to us now? What do we want to do for ourselves now? And the duty we have to our children and our grandchildren in years to come. The decision we make of what kind of a bridge we put there and what we do with that bridge has an impact, and it's not just immediate but long range. So these are all things that we can think about as we try to put into some perspective what the community wants. Now, I want to call to your attention, you should have the agenda. If you don't, there are some still over there. As you follow down, you'll see that the township engineer, Bob Johnson, which is two over to my left, your right, is going to be making presentation and answering questions and answers. And then after that is the township insurance agent, Andrew DiProspero, who will be making a presentation, answering questions and answers as well. Not on your agenda, but under the presentation section is Chief of Police Albert McCarthy, who had an idea that he thought might be of some interest and value, and so he wanted to present it as well. And we also have several other people who have signed up to do presentations. So we have a total of about 4 additional presentations that will take us through that, and then we will get down to statements. And there we have 12 people who have signed up to make statements, and they'll be called in the order in which they signed up. 2 of those statements will be, well, one of them for sure will be read, 2 of them may be read. And then finally, an opportunity for those that have not prepared a formal statement to be able to express their concerns. Now, when you make your statement, there's a podium to come up and present your statement. For those that are going to make a statement of concern, we have a portable microphone, and we'll pass that around to those who are making a statement so that everybody can be heard, so that the recorder in the back can hear it and pick up the sound, and so those who are like me, who have hearing aids, will be able to hear. In a room like this, those who are hard of hearing have a lot of difficulty hearing. So speaking up and using the microphone will be a great deal of assistance for all of us. Now, having stated all of that, and you've been patient with me, I want to read a couple of things just to put into some sense of order the history and the facts of what we're dealing with here. I also want to turn off the buzzer on my cell phone, and hopefully those of you who have cell phones that are on will do the same so that we aren't interrupted by the sounds of cell phones going on. And you will, yes, item 8 on the back of your agenda is the rules of how we're going to proceed. And item 8 says cell phone etiquette. So turning off your cell phone sound would be a wonderful first step for that. But you see the rest of the rules of the meeting, as it were, to make it sound terribly, terribly formal. So the first thing I'm going to do is read to you a short section from the Gilmore and Associates Engineering and Consulting Services report that's dated August 22, 2007. Because it tells us what then, August 22, 2007, what the condition was. The Chandler Mill Road Bridge, which is number 236, is a one-lane bridge with a cartway width of 16 feet. Chandler Mill Road is a two-lane roadway in Kennett Township, except at the bridge crossing. The functional classification for Chandler Mill Road is a local roadway. The cartway on Chandler Mill Road is approximately 18 feet wide with no curb or shoulder. The posted speed limit along Chandler Mill Road is 35 miles per hour in the vicinity of the bridge, number 236. Bucktoe Road is a two-lane roadway adjacent to the Chandler Mill Road Bridge 236. The functional classification for Bucktoe Road is a local roadway. The cartway on Bucktoe Road is approximately 18 feet wide with no curb or shoulder. The posted speed limit along Bucktoe Road is 30 miles per hour in the vicinity of Bridge 236. So that's the existing condition. Now let me describe the bridge to you. Now you probably all know this, but nevertheless, I want to put it on the record so that it's clear. Chandler Mill, this is from the Liechtenstein Consulting Engineers Report, April 17, 2007. And this author refers to the bridge as Chandler's Bridge. So I'm going to read it that way, but we know it's Chandler Mill Bridge. Chandler's Bridge, parentheses, Chester County Bridge number 236, end paren, is single-span steel through girder bridge carrying Chandler Mill Road, which is T-408. And that, by the way, for those that don't know, belongs to the township. It is not a county or a state road. Carrying Chandler Mill Road over the west branch of Red Clay Creek in Kennett Township, Chester County. The bridge was built in 1910 and has a span length of 45 feet 6 inches as measured from center to center of bearings. The bridge roadway width is approximately 16 feet from curb to curb. A 2-inch thick bituminous wearing surface is present over the reinforced concrete deck. The bridge is currently posted for 8 tons. The superstructure is comprised of built-up riveted steel girders with rolled steel floor beams. The girder bearings consist of steel plates. The substructure is constructed on a 90-degree skew with the steel girders and is comprised of stone masonry abutments with flared wing walls. The stream alignment is poor with a 90-degree bend upstream of the bridge. The bridge is located in a rural area with a minor horizontal curve on the north approach and a T intersection, Bucktoe Road, with a stop condition on the south approach approximately 55 feet from the bridge. The one-lane bridge is slightly narrower than the approach roadways. Chandler Mill Road has an average daily traffic count of 937 vehicles per day, as recorded in 2003. The bridge is on a scheduled school bus route. I guess I should read this next sentence. Chandler Mill Road is in overall poor condition based on the deteriorated superstructure elements. The bridge is currently posted for a maximum weight limit of 8 tons. And I wanted to read to you from a letter that was produced for the 106 hearing that talks about the background and particularly the historic aspect of it. It's dated February 6, 2013. It was addressed to Renee Siegel, Division Administrator of the Federal Highway Administration, Pennsylvania Division, and it was written by Andrea C. Furster, an attorney in Washington, D.C. And I believe that this was produced at the request of the Land Trust.
The Chandler Mill Bridge Consortium.
Thank you, the Bridge Consortium. The project to replace the Chandler Mill Bridge was originally proposed by the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation in 2006, at which time the state took the position that the bridge was not eligible for listing in the National Register, and PennDOT therefore determined that the project required no analysis of alternatives under Section 4F or Section 106. However, the Chandler Mill Bridge was subsequently listed in the National Register on January 11, 2010. The keeper of the National Register rejected a subsequent petition to delist the bridge and confirmed that the bridge continued to meet the National Register criteria for local historic and engineering significance. Accordingly, the project is subject to Section 4F and Section 106 as well as NEPA. So that's quick and dirty of the historic component of it. Now I want to read to you a letter that was written by Vice Chairman of the Board of Supervisors of Kennett Township, Alan F. Falkoff, on April 14, 2009. And it's addressed to the Commissioners of Chester County. We have been made aware of a PennDOT letter of February 19, 2009, addressed to the Chester County Department of Facilities, referencing future Chandler Mill Bridge design in Kennett Township and defining PennDOT's position that if a single-lane, two-way, yield-controlled traffic pattern is safe, they will approve a design exception for the project. We call your attention to our letter, Township Supervisor, of July 3, 2008 to Mr. Stephen Fromnick of your Department of Facilities Management, where we voice our approval of this concept. PennDOT wishes some confirmation that future land and road usage in the area of the bridge does not adversely change. Kennett Township has no plans to widen Chandler Mill Road between Hillendale and Bucktoe Roads. Additionally, a considerable portion of land in this area is eased and not available for future development. The very nature of Chandler Mill Road, south of Hillendale Road, hinders large trucks, higher speeds, excessive traffic, and acts as a natural traffic calming mechanism. Gilmore and Associates, the Kennett Township engineer, on December 21, 2007, provided PennDOT's Brian G. Thompson, Acting Director, Bureau of Design, with a crash analysis and site distance report of the bridge area. Their conclusion was that the existing single-lane, two-way bridge design did not contribute to previous documented accidents. This single-lane, two-way, non-yield, controlled structure has been in place for decades and has shown itself to be the correct design for the area. We cannot think of any reason to change the existing bridge design concept for the future, except perhaps to add yield signs at each end, Please contact the Township Board of Supervisors if you require additional clarification as to our position. Now, I read this letter to you because this was the letter that I found that states clearly what the position was of the township at that time. Since then, there has been other references in minutes to meetings that suggest that the township has taken a different position. I have not found a document that states from a meeting that contained the then three supervisors, the discussion, the questions, what the decision was, what the votes were, any of that. So I'm not making reference to minutes that make reference to that, because I don't have anything to link it. But I'm saying to you that it's my understanding that the township has changed its position from this. So that's the background that I wanted to share with you so that we were all, relatively speaking, the same page. Those that live there and have been along Chandler Mill Road and who have been dispossessed because the road is closed, we're not in your place, and I hope we'll hear from you tonight about that. And those of you who have been dispossessed because you have to go looping around Hillendale and down Keolin or some other way to get from here to Route 7, those are issues that perhaps you'll share with us. But this should get us at least to have a common area for discussion. Does anybody have any questions about anything that I've said up to this point? Okay. In which case, I would like to then call on Bob Johnston from our engineer to speak to us about the bridge and what he knows of the bridge.
Good evening. I do have one question for you on the Lichtenstein report. I believe the report indicated it's a township-owned bridge.
In fact, it is a county-owned bridge.
That's correct.
And I don't recall having seen that. Let's see.
I thought that's what I... Okay.
Over the West Branch in Kennett Township. But in case anybody else misunderstood that, in fact, it does belong to the county.
It is a county bridge. My last contact with this bridge was back in 2008. So I had to reintroduce myself to material from maybe 2007 to 2008 and also bring myself somewhat up to speed on what this is. There is a report that is on the PennDOT website on the PA highway bridges for lengths of bridges greater than 20 feet. At this point, let me get my key here, and then I'm only going to deal with the Chandler Mill Bridge, because there's other bridges on the report, and there's other bridges within the township. Deck condition rating is a 4, which is poor, deterioration of primary structural elements, and they're advanced. The supporting structure is a 1, imminent failure, major deterioration in critical structural components. Bridge is closed, but corrective action may put the bridge back into light service. Substructure, 4. Poor deterioration of primary structural elements has advanced. It's also structurally deficient and functionally obsolete. Structurally deficient, and I'll read the definition. Again, everything I'm reading here is PennDOT, not the township. Structurally deficient, indication of the bridge overall status in terms of structural soundness and stability to service traveling public. SD indicates that the bridge has deterioration to one or more of its major components. Functionally obsolete, indication of bridge's overall status in terms of structural soundness and ability to service traveling public. Functionally obsolete indicates the bridge has older features, for example, road width, weight limits, compared to more recently built bridges. Right now, PennDOT follows, I believe, the Federal Highway Administration design criteria. This bridge is functionally obsolete. They don't design bridges right now. It's also mentioned this was a bus route. We take health, safety, and welfare of the public, children, very seriously. Based on what I look here, the bridge, again, needs to be replaced from the ground up. This is according to the report, which is available on the internet through that. There was also what was called a pro-temp meeting back on January 7th, 2008, where discussions about one-lane bridge for two-way. If this is in the professional engineers would be uncomfortable putting their professional engineering seal on plans for a one-lane bridge that would be two ways. Gentleman Tim Stevenson at the time was a PennDOT representative. I'm not even sure if Mr. Stevenson works for PennDOT at this time. Asked if they would be comfortable sealing a one-lane bridge plan if the road was converted to a one-lane road. They would be comfortable sealing the plan under that circumstance. PennDOT criteria for a one-lane, two-way bridge, I believe the average daily traffic is 100 vehicles a day. At this point, we did a report that was dated back in '07 where we did 500 and some vehicles a day. That was based on the township JMAR, which is a recording device. That recording device was on a holiday weekend with 500 vehicles per day. Again, I believe it's 100. The report here that's in the PennDOT is 849, and I believe in the Liechtenstein report it was 900 and some. So according to PennDOT standards, this cannot be a one-lane, two-way bridge. I'm just trying to tell you some basic facts. Everything here is designed by PennDOT. If you wanted to take over the bridge, it's my understanding the county would give you the bridge as is. That's no design, that's no repairs. I was asked on Friday afternoon to give you some, I used the term ballpark, didn't tell me which ballpark, American or National League, night or day. I say that because I work for someone who used to torture me that way. The replacement of a full deck, this is just the surface of the deck. And again, didn't have a chance to go in. This is 100 and some bridges which were on the PennDOT Engineering Construction Management System. Ranged from $100,000, which was some kind of experimental fiberglass that we did take a quick look into. But most of them range from $200,000 to $7.5 million just for the deck replacement. According to your report, your superstructure, which the beams that hold up the bridge, are in need of repair. That ranged from $100,000 to $10 million. Again, didn't have a chance to see what lengths, with widths, with size, with loads. This did not even include abutments and foundations. Thinking of the cost and then doing an engineering economics, I'm going to throw this number out, and I'll see if Ms. Moore can help me out. How many residents in Kennett Township? 8,000? How many residents in the county of Chester? Over 500,000? So you're spreading any cost out quite considerably over more residents. It's a public road, it's a public bridge that would use it. So again, if you have to replace or even repair, and it's $800,000 with 8,000 residents, that's a lot of money. And I guarantee you there's, it's not cheap.
Which part of the
Excuse
range
me?
are you basing that on?
Not through my presentation. I think the rules were to wait. I'm sorry, I didn't want to jump on Mr. Scudder's rules, but that's what he said to follow. Again, the amounts, didn't have a chance to look. The other thing I do not have is I do not have plans for the bridge to know what they intended. I'm not a bridge engineer to know the design, to know what the range of values are. Typically when I do this, I have a lot more information to pull together, saying this bridge is about 50 feet in width, in length. I'd find the width and try to come up with some comparables. But I don't have all that technical information on that. We did do a report stating that everything back in '07 that it met, let me find the right paper here. It's in the front of this one. That it met safety study for crashes. The traffic volume in our report was 570 vehicles today. That was based on Kennett Township's numbers. Level of service was a good level of service. I'm looking through. Geometric review, which is sight distance, met the requirements for the speeds that are posted. Traffic study for speed also met the percentile, because people, again, I think it was mentioned, or I heard earlier, that this was a natural traffic calming. They did slow down for the bridge. Again, but all these items need to comply with any design to the Federal Highway Administration if you're looking for any money from county or the state or the feds to repair this bridge, actually replace this bridge. As an engineer, it would be very difficult if somebody just wanted to replace the superstructure and leave the abutments. I don't think you're going to find an engineer that would be willing to sign and seal those plans at all. The bridge is closed because it does not meet structural requirements. To tell you why and go through that detail, I don't have that report. I am not the bridge engineer that did the inspections. I believe the county did through their bridge engineering firm. So, I can help you. If you have questions about that, I can help you maybe address or do some understanding. But I don't have that report, since I'm not the engineer of record who did the review and sealed the report. That's it in a nutshell. Beyond that, I believe on questions, and I think this lady over here is first up.
I did. Have a question.
Could you say your name for me, please?
Joelle.
Spell for me.
J-O-E-L-L-E.
Okay.
C-U-C-R-O.
Microphone. Thank you, sir.
The range that you stated, which seems awfully broad to me, 100,000.
Microphone?
The range of the, can you hear me?
No. I can hear you, but I'm not sure if everybody else can.
So my question was around the range of the cost, the replacement cost, which I think you stated 100,000 to 10 million.
That would be the beam and the deck.
But that seems like an awfully wide range.
That's why I explained to you that I did not have an opportunity to go in and look at about 60 various bridges. I'd have to open every plan up, look through every plan to get the dimensions and what each bridge was being done. I didn't have a lot of time from Friday afternoon till tonight to do that.
Okay, is that something that can be done?
Yes, it can be done. I need to get permission from the township for allowing, pay for a professional's time to go in and go through, it's probably about 120 sets of drawings. It's not cheap. But again, we were just trying to give you a range of values from the low end to a high end.
Hang on for 1 second, okay? Let me ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
That may help us focus a little bit. You're familiar with the Lichtenstein report?
Never saw it before.
Never saw it?
No, sir.
All right, well, let me show you what is included there. For about $290,000, it is making a proposal what it would cost to make the repairs. On this short notice, it's probably
I have no clue.
no way to comment.
Again, what I prefaced everything before is, yes, each bridge is different. There's different designs for a bridge depending upon the length, the width, the capacity. Each engineer does it differently according to PennDOT Federal Highway Standards. Without knowing what those standards are, I can't be able to take and look through plans to come up with an estimate based on what someone else did unless I know what they are. How many beams, things along that nature. The only thing I know is what the width would be and the length, but not if there's 10 beams, which would hold up the deck, is there 8 beams? There are the components which I don't know.
I understand. And have you had a chance to check on the impact on Round Hill Road and any of the other adjacent roads as to the impact of having the bridge closed at this point?
No, I was not requested by the township to do that.
Okay. Okay. So you had a question back here?
I think he answered it in saying that it's because of the structural differences and the length and the width and what have you, that you would have such a broad range.
Correct.
So that was my question. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Gwen Lacy, G-W-E-N, L-A-C-Y.
Hold it close.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, couple questions. Scudder already asked the first one, which is, have you seen the Lichtenstein report that was done specifically for rehab of the bridge? Have you studied that report? And that would be a no?
That's correct.
Okay. Are you being paid to be here tonight or to come up with a report to give this evening by the township?
There was more than one question. Could you break them out and repeat them again for me, please?
Let me interrupt and say that he is here to comment. He's not giving a report as such.
Oh, okay, I thought that was what you just gave.
What I did is, it's the information that's available. Part of it I read is one of the requests. I believe you requested the August 22nd, 2007 report, which I did follow. I was, again, when I spoke with you, I was not even aware of that until I saw it and I actually signed it. But that goes to over 6 years ago.
Okay, so the Lichtenstein report, so are you basing this solely on the county's feasibility report that is now online at Project PAC?
What's the feasibility report?
The county's feasibility report that you were reading from.
I didn't read from the feasibility report. I read from the bridge inventory.
Okay, and where did that come from?
PennDOT on the website. It's
Okay.
it's done every 2 years, I believe.
Okay, I apologize. Our engineer is not able to be here. He's with his grandchildren over spring break, and he's only allowed to listen. So we have to do some of this on our own based on what we've seen. Unfortunately, our engineer's not here to talk to you, so I apologize. I'm not an engineer. But I would like to ask you a couple things. Were you also able to see the 106 comments? Our engineer's report, design exception, yes?
No, I
No.
just found out that the 106 was actually being done. I don't have a day-to-day working knowledge of this bridge. The township tells me if they need me to review, you can hand it to me, but I'm not going to be able to grasp this, or is this a copy to keep?
That's a copy you can keep.
Thank you.
That's actually our engineer who can't be here. 40 different responses to the county's feasibility report. And are you also, you must be familiar with design exception reports. Yes?
For this, I have not seen any design exception reports for this bridge at all.
Okay, because we created one and the township actually sent a letter saying, please record this design exception report. But again, that you understand though that as a national historic site, that this can be rehabbed using all federal PennDOT county funding if a design exception report is recorded based on 106.
That's more than what I typically deal with.
Okay. And I think you also made it clear that you are not a bridge engineer, correct?
That's correct.
I think therein probably is the problem.
It's not a problem, it's just that I am a registered professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Right.
I have knowledge, and my knowledge is what I read or what I discuss with. I did not speak to another bridge engineer who could probably have informed me and given me more data or information to speak about it tonight. That's not what I was asked to do by the township. I'm here trying to ask and answer some general questions, put some history down, and go forward like that. The township has no, I believe, no design engineers through the county that's doing the design engineer on this, and the county probably has more of those answers than the township that you're looking for at this point.
Right, but you did state that this cannot be rehabbed.
I'm looking through here, there is a lot of issues and problems. The whole deck is gone.
Right.
The abutments are,
So that's why I'm saying if you would please for the next meeting look at the Lichtenstein report as well, and also our engineers who was a bridge, who
Well,
worked for PennDOT for 30 years as a bridge engineer.
I would have to, what's the date of the Lichtenstein report?
April 2007.
So that report's now 6 years old, so
Right.
the bridge itself is probably in a condition is worse than what was in that report.
It would be, but if you look at both, if you compare both the Lichtenstein and the county feasibility, you'll see that they mention the same exact things. One says it can be rehabbed, one says it can't. Same exact wear and tear. All of that was already, the deck hasn't gotten any different since then. But again, there's a lot of people here, so we'll keep going.
Gwen, I want to ask you one question. You said something about something being forwarded to the township, some report that was
So
forwarded.
we have
back.
lots of letters, and I think I already gave
Are
this
you referring to the 106?
No, this is a whole packet of all the correspondence from the township.
Right, that is the package from the 106 that you
Yes.
forwarded, correct? Right, and as you'll recall, I told you, this is not the 106, has nothing to do,
Oh.
Gwen, excuse me, has nothing to do with the 106. All we're
talking
trying
about
to
the
do
design exception.
is make clear what the record reveals. That's what we're trying to do.
Except, I just beg to differ because the 106 has everything to do with the design exception report, which goes back to the rehab or not of the bridge. It's all interrelated. Same case.
Gwen, could you tell me your engineer's name?
Ron Donati, he's on the phone. He's
Okay.
listening, but he can't talk.
Okay.
He's only allowed to listen.
Are there any other questions for the township engineer?
There's someone back here.
I'm Guy Eckert.
I'm sorry.
Is working?
No.
Guy Eckert.
Got G-U-Y, last name?
Eckert, E-C-K-E-R-T. I just want to say that, Bob, it sounded like the report that you were reading from basically drew kind of a really ugly picture of the state of the
You know what,
bridge.
maybe better come up this way. I heard the first part of it.
It's not,
Please use the
Podium?
If you don't mind. Or just go ahead.
I was just going to say that it sounded like the report that you were reading from it drew not a real rosy picture of the state of the bridge, but I think I heard a report, I think it was in a 106 meeting, where I heard somebody say that the bridge, even in its current state, is still rated at 8 tons, which I think is the rating that it originally had when it was first opened. So my point is, it sounds like it's in a state of imminent failure, but the bridge actually could probably continue to support quite a bit of pedestrian and pedestrian traffic for probably another engineer, but I'm guessing a couple hundred years.
I'll answer that with this. It's a county bridge. The county does their structural, I'm assuming the county does their structural review. the county has made the decision to close the bridge.
To vehicular traffic.
I can't answer that question. My understanding is the county closed the bridge.
Yeah, and that, I don't disagree with you. My point was just to throw that out there, that the bridge, even though it sounds from the report that you were reading from, it sounds like the bridge is about to fall into the creek. It's still rated at 8 tons. So,
I didn't state that I recall that the bridge had a rating. I said the bridge was closed.
no, I know, but the numbers you were reading about the various parts of the bridge that were either a 1 or a 4, which is supposedly a poor rating, even with all those bad ratings, the bridge is still rated at 8 tons.
Again, I didn't have that information available to me to tell you that. That must have come from someone else. But
Understood.
Yes.
Is the bridge rated at 8 tons still? Because I seem to recall a sign that said like 3 tons and then it
No.
got downgraded to 1 ton or something like that, and that's why it got closed.
No, it was 12.6 when it was originally built in 1910. It was, and neighbors can affirm this, in 1980s, I believe, it was 8 tons, and it's been 8 tons ever since. And you can see the sign still up there, it's 8.
But it got downgraded when it got closed.
No, it was still 8 tons.
Okay, so we're on the same page. Okay.
And your name, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Ray Ann St. Clair. Ray Ann St. Clair.
Ray Ann, what's that, R-A-E?
R-A-P, second word A-N-N, yes.
Are there any other questions for the township engineer?
thank you.
Thank you very much, welcome.
You're welcome.
Our next presenter is Andrew P. DiProspero, who's the township risk management consultant, and from whom we obtain our township insurances, the various insurances, who is going to talk to us about the insurance that impacts on our decisions relating to the bridge.
Oh, hello. I grew up here in Kennett Square. I don't live there anymore. So if you don't like what I have to say afterwards, don't go egging a house. That would be my parents. They didn't do anything wrong. Okay? I'm not in the borough anymore. Just want to make that clear. The township asked me about the bridge, and I'm working off of the county's feasibility analysis, which reads like an inspection report of the bridge. Townships have liability coverage for bridge. We have liability coverage for bridges all over the place. The township doesn't own this bridge, right? The county owns it. So liability-wise, it's their problem. So strictly from a boring risk management perspective, right, the best thing to do is avoidance. I'm setting aside all of the historical and all of our other issues here. But I'm just risk management-wise. This is a problem bridge. We don't have it. So if the question is, should we bring on the bridge, strictly from that standpoint, the answer would be no. But, here we are today. So, this is where we stand. The county's report is what I have, January 2013. I'm hearing about other reports. I don't have any of those. I have the county report. So there's 2 types of coverage you're looking for on a bridge. Liability. That would be somebody goes out there and gets hurt, right, and they bring a lawsuit against the township. The other would be physical damage. Most places, we insure about 700 or so municipalities throughout the Commonwealth. Most places don't insure their bridges for physical damage, right? Something happens to them, they just fix the bridges. If the bridges wash out, they would go to FEMA and try and get money for the bridges. That doesn't mean you can't get property damage coverage on bridges. You can. You can go to an insurance company and buy it. But the big thing with a bridge, especially something like Chandler Mill, is flood. So the National Flood Insurance Program doesn't cover bridges. And if you take this report and you want to go to a large carrier and say, we want to insure this bridge for replacement value, and it's, considered to be in a 10-year flood prone area. I don't think it's reasonable to try and price that up. You know, the folks that I would talk to are saying, you know, into the hundreds of thousands of dollars for this type of coverage, if they would do it. But mostly after they read the report, they just were like, what are they thinking? So that's kind of where we stand on, you know, the liability and property perspective. If you guys are rehabbing the bridge, you know, we can take a look at that and see what you want to do. That's kind of it for me.
Okay, let me ask you a couple questions
Go ahead.
before I open it up to the audience. As I understand it, the township owns 6 bridges, including 2 one-laners. Is that correct?
That's the info I have, yeah.
Okay. As far as your records are concerned, am I correct in understanding that there has never been an accident on the bridge or attributable to the bridge?
That's
Okay. And why do you presume it would be so expensive to insure for liability the bridge in its as-is condition?
Well, I think you probably, as is, I want to know what you're thinking. Because then I have to go back and make the case to the insurance company that this is what they're thinking. But right now it's a pedestrian bridge with, you know, a report that reads like a horror show. So it looks like if you read this thing that it's getting ready to wash away, you know, relatively soon. So, you know, your carriers are going to be thinking, well, I think they're more like the mindset. You know, they're not getting all this historical significance and why we want to do this. They're just going, this thing's a mess. You know, somebody can come in and replace it. You know, they're not thinking in terms of it's on the National Register, you know, we need to do this, we need to do that. They're just going, well, this thing's in disrepair. Fix it up. I could probably get liability coverage on it. I don't think liability is the issue. I think it's the physical damage part. I don't know that that's that big of an issue because, as I said, most municipalities choose not to insure them for physical damage.
Well, the township doesn't have physical damage insurance, does it?
Not on the rest of its bridges, no. Not to do, you know, 99% of other townships out there. But you have liability coverage on your bridges.
Okay. And if I want to see if I understand how the liability is calculated. You don't insure individual bridges, you insure the package of bridges for the township. Is that correct?
We insure the township, right, and then we take a look at bridges usually over a certain length, which would be 50 feet. So it's not even 50 feet, but first of all, you don't own it, so I don't have to worry about it. But now that, you know, I'm made aware of it and what's going on, it's a material hazard. I would have to let any potential carrier know that you guys are bringing this on and in its current state. So, you know, I have to go back to your current carrier and say, this is what it is that they're planning to do with this bridge. Or, you know, it sounds to me like we have a little bit of a battle of the engineers here, too. But, you know, the report that I have is, I'm not an engineer, it just doesn't seem to read all that favorably. It talks of overload, lack of scour protection, having overtopped a couple of times.
Okay. If the bridge were rehabbed, then that would be a change in circumstances such that you could take it back to the carrier.
Yeah, I think I could, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Yetter.
Jeff Yetter, Kennett Township.
First, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yetter, Y-E-T-T-E-R.
Y-E.
T-T-E-R. Can we delve into the hypothetical? We have a rehab bridge. Approximately what is the cost? Because we've been told that the cost could be exorbitant, just for liability.
Now, I think the liability side, again, part of that's gotten confused, I believe, in the liability side is not that much.
How much?
$500.
Thank you.
$1,000.
Okay, good.
Rehab, though. Rehab.
Rehab, correct.
That was $500 or $1,000.
To $1,000.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
That covered, Jeff?
Mhm.
Other questions? Yes, Glenn?
It's actually, everyone keeps talking about taking the bridge as is, and I spoke to you today. And the clarification is, the township, if they were to take it back, would not take it as is. The whole idea is that the county wants to give it back, it would all be done, it would all be fixed up and rehab, county, federal highway, and PennDOT funds. So nobody is asking the township to take this bridge back as is, ever.
But Gwen, that's what is being offered by the county.
I beg to differ, and I wish our engineer could speak. The whole thing for 7 years has been the county will give it back once it's rehabbed. I have the agreements with Charleston and New Garden, signed agreements showing they rehab it first, then they give it back. The county just doesn't want to own it. They want the township to own it. That's the whole crux of it.
Okay, well,
It's huge difference.
I'm telling you what we know at this point. The county has told us they will not give it to us rehab, they will give it to us as is.
Well, that's the first we've ever heard of that.
Well, that may be, but that's what they have told us. That is our presumption. Now, if it could be under some other circumstances, that would be wonderful. But this is what our presumption is standing here, sitting here right now.
So for 7 years, and we have letters back and forth from the township and the county, now it's completely different, and that's good to know, I guess, if that is the
I can't speak to your letters, but I'm telling you what it is right now, as recently as Friday. Any other questions? Yes, Ray?
When you're talking about rehab, are we talking about rehab so that the bridge reopens for vehicle traffic, or rehab just for walking and biking? Because I would think that would structurally be a little bit different.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. But this discussion so far has been on the presumption that it would be rehab for vehicle purposes. And then we can, I presume we will get into the alternatives, but I'm trying to deal with things as they currently are as we understand them.
Right, and that's what I wanted to clarify. So this would be to sort of put it back the way it was so that we could start using it again.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Was there another? Yes.
I'm going to stand up. My name is Jane, Jane, Dorchester, Dorchester. And I just had a question to clarify my mind. You're talking about the liability insurance. And I think, if I understood you right, you said that for the township, it's actually a package deal, that you have liability insurance and it covers all bridges over 50 feet?
It covers all the bridges. There's only certain ones that we would actually go and take a look at.
Okay.
You know, review the inspection report.
And what bridges would those be?
The ones over 50 feet.
Okay, so you actually would not look at inspection for this bridge because it's under 50 feet.
Well, again, I mentioned to you that at this point it's a material hazard. I can't misrepresent that to a carrier.
Regardless of the fact that it's under 50 feet.
Yeah, that's really just that's an underwriting function. You know, I could take you to a different carrier, the township, and they might say, show us the inspection reports on all bridges over 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody might say, 30 feet. I'm just telling you the distinction of where the township is now.
Okay, so let's just do another hypothetical, and the county is saying, sorry.
That's right, I love hypotheticals.
The county is saying that they will only give it back in the condition that it is in today, so that without rehab. What would happen to then the liability insurance for the township?
Well, I laid this out to the current liability carrier, and they said, well, we don't want to do this for liability. Why would the township want to take this back? So here I am today.
Okay.
And this is okay. I see why you might want to take it back. But what I really would like to know is, what's the plan?
Okay.
Because it reads like, you guys would agree, it doesn't read well, and it collapses, then the township's got a collapsed bridge laying in the middle of the Red Clay Creek, liability potentially.
Right. But you can't tell me at this point that if the township were to take it back as is, the township's liability insurance would go up X amount of dollars.
Nah, I can't tell you that because I really need to see some sort of plan.
Yes, Rich.
Yeah, so, Richard Leff. So, Leff, L-E-F as in Frank, another F as in Frank.
Right.
So you've been talking about liability insurance if it's open to vehicular traffic or any traffic? Is there
Just right now, again, just, tell me where you're going.
So either it gets open to vehicular traffic after some level of work is being done from what I hear, or there's a certain level of work done so that it's open to pedestrian or bicycle, much lighter loads. And is there a difference in the liability in either of those settings?
Now, one way or the other, you're going to have to put the bridge back together. Maybe that's not the right way to phrase that, but for some sort of functional use, right? So that's okay. If you guys decide you want to redo the bridge and have it be rated at 8 tons, and you want to spend whatever, then that's good. I have plenty of bridges that people drive over that are rated at 8 tons. I have bridges that people walk over, and they're pedestrian bridges, and we cover them all for liability.
And is there a difference in that?
Not necessarily. Bridges are, liability-wise, in general, bridges are not that big a deal. Liability-wise, this bridge is a big deal, right?
Depends on who's going over the bridge.
You can answer the question, I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't.
There's a difference
Depends
between
on the
cargo
quality of
and
the bridge.
Yeah, I actually did
One
answer
at a
the
time,
question,
please, one at a
but
time.
The bridge has to be, you have to tell me what it is that you're doing with the bridge, that's all. Are you leaving it as a pedestrian bridge? Right? It's a pedestrian bridge now, because nobody's going there. I walked over it the other day, right? That's a pedestrian, right? But you're not just going to leave it sit there, or maybe, you know what I'm saying? I just want to know what the plan is.
But I think what we're asking for is, insurance companies work on hypotheticals, that's what they do. Right?
Okay.
Risk management, it's all about hypotheticals. Tell us what it costs for liability coverage for the bridge in its current state if it were only open to pedestrians. Tell us what it would cost in its current state if we opened it to cars. Tell us what it would cost if we rehabbed it, opened it to pedestrians. Tell us what it would cost if we rehabbed it and opened it to cars. It's 4 scenarios.
Let me interrupt and try to answer that question for you. I think what he said, as he answered my question earlier on, was that the township gets a bill for all of its bridges. The bridges aren't itemized out as such. This one cost $1,000, this one $1,000, and this one $4,000. There's a bill for $44,000 that covers 6 bridges. Now you're going to add a 7th bridge in a dilapidated condition. Perhaps a bad choice of words. And what will the impact of that be? I think he said that he cannot tell you that until it's actually given to the insurance carrier for underwriting purposes, and then they will calculate the whole package all over again, but it's up to the underwriter to do the calculation. He's not writing it. He has to carry it to them and disclose to them what the condition of it is, and then they will do the underwriting, and it may jump it from 44 to something else. But you won't know that per bridge. You'll get a package deal. Am I stating this correctly?
Sounds fair.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
Just a mile upstream is a very
Okay,
similar bridge.
Oh, yes, please,
sorry.
please announce who you are.
Sandy Sallee, S-A-L-L-E-E. S is in Sam, A-L-L-E-E.
Right.
Upstream, about a mile away, is a very similar bridge that crosses over the same creek, built in 1932. Could we look at the insurance for that particular bridge?
And kind of use it as a,
Yeah.
just, you're talking about the one on Hillendale Road,
Yes.
County owns it. County owns it.
which, by the way, sufficiency rating 75, right? Chandler Mill, 17. I'm with you. I'm just saying, sometimes, like, you're given the numbers. I can only do so much with the numbers, right? But anyway, Hillendale Road, we would take a look at the inspection, and let's say we look at a sufficiency rating of like 75. It's fine. Because I saw it when I was out there. I'm thinking, it looks pretty similar to me.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys could get that one on the National Register and then just put this to the news. But
that bridge is
sorry,
owned by the
can I take your idea?
Well, you did, but we'll talk about it.
The other thing is, as someone that lives in the community, I have very strong feelings about first responders.
That's what I mean, I don't have trouble. I have a full list probably for.
Can you use the podium?
As a homeowner in this community, I have concerns about first responders. I have concerns about school children. I have concerns that my husband and I, it's what, an extra 7 minutes per day. We both work in Wilmington, and Scudder, I would equate it if you had to go to Kennett and the Mill Bridge was out and you had to go by way of Byard Road. I sort of mapped it out, same similar inconvenience. But anyhow, it adds significant time to police, firemen, paramedics. 7 minutes could make a difference in someone's life if they live just on the other side of the bridge and, they had a heart attack. So anyhow, so not only the pollution, the expense, school children, firefighters, police, all of those things, and I'm sure they've been considered. How?
Well, that's really for the township to decide. I mean, that's all part of their decision. I mean, you're going to ask me just if it's a risk management opinion, right? Is it better to have first responders there 7 minutes earlier or 7 minutes later? 7 minutes earlier sounds better to me.
And I think I even have sent you an email at the time of your election with all of these concerns. And a year later, the bridge is still closed.
Those will be addressed in the presentation.
Yeah, there's supposed to be answering questions about it.
Are there any other questions for our, yes ma'am?
My name is Peggy D. Shields, D-E-S-H-I-E-L-D-S. I'm president of the trustee board of New Garden Memorial Church, affiliated with the Bucktown Cemetery. My question is, I've been hearing reports from 2007. This is 2013. This is 6 years later. Is there a updated report of the bridge where somebody's inspected the bridge between then and now? That's what I mean. I heard reports coming from 2007, not coming from 2008 or 13 or however it went. I didn't receive that. But I didn't hear you read from that one. I heard you read from 2007, and I heard somebody else read from 2007. So, what is that? I know my dad took me over that bridge several times when I was young. So it's like, I think that would help the residents around the area to get their, to get to and from, their area and let them get a little more information on the same thing.
Well, the current report is January 2013 from Johnson, Mirren, and Thompson, who I believe are also the engineers that are doing the new bridge design. So this is the current report. Again, wasn't aware that there was a newer one, but more than likely the bridge these things do not stand still. They don't get better, they get worse.
If you hang on for 1 second, please. We've gone from insurance to the general, and I'd like to try to keep focus on the agenda. Your questions are vitally important, and I'm glad that you have it out, but can we keep it in the general comments rather than, right now we're talking about insurance, and before that we were talking about the engineering, and then there's going to be some other presentations, and then we start going into the broad spectrum of the kind of question that you asked. And I want to hear that question, but I'd like to put it at the right place in the agenda, if you don't mind. I'm sorry? You've got an insurance one, please do.
Okay,
Thank you.
insurance. Now, will the insurance adjuster go in and look at the bridge themselves to determine whether they're going to take it on or not?
They're going to look at this report.
They're not going to look at the bridge?
Well, the insurance person, they're not an engineer. This report's done by an engineer,
Well,
by the bridge's owner.
don't the insurance companies have engineers like they have adjusters that have an accident?
I can send somebody out to look at the bridge, but he's not an engineer. This, first of all, the township doesn't own the bridge, the county owns the bridge.
How did the county get how did the county get to own the bridge from the township? Can I ask?
It always did, as far as I know.
Yeah.
The county always owned
Yes.
it? Then how does the township get involved with what the county owns? I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I'll sit down.
Because the township residents want to keep it, some of them do, want to keep it as a functional bridge, and then the county and the state want to turn it into something else. And hence it becomes a tension between the local residents and the county. And that's why we're in the middle of this, and that's why we're all together talking about it. But it does belong to the county, and the county ultimately makes that decision, but it has to work through a number of rules that apply, both at the federal and the state and the county levels. And that's where all this tension is coming in. Any other questions on insurance?
I have one last one.
Yes, ma'am.
Joel. So, just to, I know you don't necessarily have the answer to this, but just what your thoughts are on a purely pedestrian or cycle bridge, which would involve modifications to the way it's laid out so a car could not get over it. Does that exist today? Has that been done?
Not, I guess, I don't know, I always think about that when, when this came up. It just seems, you can do it and, it'll be covered, assuming that it's rehabbed into that type of condition. It just seems, I don't know, it's just speaking personally, it just seems odd to me. It's a pedestrian bridge that connects two roads.
Pedestrians walk over it.
I know they do, and that's not necessarily the best thing, but, we cover that when, folks are walking along roads, but I'm just saying, to me that just, personally, it just seemed a little, pedestrian bridge that connects two roads. Usually it would go over a road or be part of a bridge, to the side of a bridge that's also carrying vehicle traffic. But if that's, again, that's what I'm saying, tell me the plan.
But it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, if the township tells me, we're going to take this bridge back and this is what we're going to do. Again, I'm talking, for the liability side.
Yes.
I want to ask a question on liability. I mean, we keep thinking about it in terms of...
Can you speak up, please? Stand up right there.
We're talking about liability, and I'm trying to figure out if we're... I mean, basically, we're talking about someone getting hurt. What about if there was, for instance, a flood and the bridge collapsed? The damage that it does to the creek or the things that go into it from the bridge downstream, would we be liable for that also? The ecological impact, perhaps?
I mentioned this to Lisa last week because I have a railroad bridge that's closed up in Union County, in Lewisburg, right, where Bucknell University is. So the railroad bridge caught on fire because they soak railroad ties in creosote, right? So the electric line comes down, the bridge catches on fire, and then all the things fall into the Susquehanna River. And that's, after the fire company, the second people on the scene is DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection. And they're saying, what's the plan here? How are we cleaning this up? What's going on? Who owns the bridge? Who's responsible? So I'm not trying to tell you that to be tough. I'm just saying, we're all one big happy family in here, and I don't know, my 22 years of dealing with DEP and different things, they have their own agenda. And yeah, it would cost.
Anything else for insurance? Going once, going twice. Albert?
Sorry.
Yes.
I think this is kind of insurance related since it was sort of woven in there at one point.
You have to speak up, please.
Sorry,
Directed, right?
you got me down, right?
I don't remember my kid's name. That's because I don't want you. We forgot. Might have to give me your name each time. Speak up.
It's Guy Eckert.
Right.
First, from a first responder standpoint, we went through this at the 106 meeting, and the fire department actually doesn't respond. It's not the first responder for anything on the other side of the bridge. So on the Bucktoe side, Kennett Fire Department is actually second in to Avon Grove, I believe. So there's really not an issue from a first responder standpoint, and one of the ex-chiefs, I don't know, is Ralph here?
Yeah, but that's 20 years ago.
Was Ralph
First
Well,
responders
this was a couple weeks
I
ago.
understand that, I was there. First responders is an issue because of the way the fire companies are. And Kennett Township has a portion of the Bucktoe Road. What he was saying was Avon Grove comes in from that side in an automatic response. And that was 20 years ago without Hartfeld. Since then, many of the Hartfeld people have called us to say, hey, we didn't know where the fire trucks were coming from. So it is an issue. I don't know if it's a liability issue.
Going to a response anywhere along Chandler Mill, off of Chandler Mill or Keolin, the bridge doesn't come into play. That's the bottom line. They're either going to go down Chandler Mill or they're going to go down Keolin.
Okay.
That's assuming they're starting from the firehouse and not starting from
Correct.
another problem.
Right.
Just be careful with that. If the police officer happens to be on the other side of town, you added 7 minutes to his response. They don't always come from headquarters.
There's 150 million different scenarios we could run through.
One at a time, please. Albert?
Okay, there are a number of issues. In fact, this is how I get involved in it, because I generally like to stay out of these broad discussions. But at the 106, and I'm going to mention 106 a little bit, at the 106 after the hearing, Mr. Stevens made a statement. There are so many different positions and so many different groups. How do we get them all together? And that's a tough challenge. I didn't know if it was a challenge or a directive, but I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. And I've looked at the bridge quite a bit. I've talked to our roadmaster about it quite a bit. And I did some research on these. Now, you can debate the historic part everywhere. The man built 85 of the bridges like this. There are 6 in 1 mile. So, but I want to see the bridge like this. But I want to see it open. Because you have the people in Round Hill Road, and you have the people in Falcons there. You have the people in Hartfelt. There are other people that want to see it open, not just the pedestrians. So you have to take that into consideration. That's one of the main. You want to see other people who want to see it just the pedestrians. I understand that too. I want to see it as it is because of traffic control. Chandler Mill Road is in excellent condition, despite the report, because it's been topped since that report, and our road crew does a good job. There are no shoulders on Chandler Mill Bridge. Chandler Mill Road. And there are a lot of people who do walk the road. So I'd like to see the traffic controlled. The traffic is controlled by the T intersection and the right angle turn on the north side. It's an automatic calming, well stated. We have enough places in the township we have to be concerned with speed and reckless vehicles. I don't ever know of an accident on that bridge, but I do know of accidents on the Hillendale Road Bridge. There was one Saturday. What I'm suggesting is that's an excellent view, and I'm not an artistic person. But if you knew the late Tom Mills, he loved this area, and he, a couple of days, taught me to stop and smell the roses. And he showed me this bridge at the beginning of the season. And if you look at it from north facing southwest, the landscaping is just beautiful. And particularly at the change of seasons, which he had me there a couple of times, even if you're driving, you still get to see this artistic view. I expect to see that in an artist's painting someday. But I'd like to see it open. And I'd like to see it open just as it is. Now, one of the things that I was involved in a lot of these reports and studies was, as long as we leave the bridge the way it is, it can stay there. But because at the 106 hearing they said more than 80% of the bridge has to be fixed, therefore, it won't meet the federal standards. It has to be replaced with a 2-lane concrete bridge. I don't think a whole lot of people are really interested in that. And I know Mr. Whittle won't like this, but I am suggesting this bridge gets swamped with the Hillendale Road Bridge. The bridges can be picked up. They're absolutely designed to be picked up. The railroads raised them regularly for big things that had to pass under their bridges that are over their railroads. The Hillendale Road Bridge is 4 feet longer, 1 feet wider. The Hillendale Road Bridge is a terrible accident bridge. First of all, Hillendale Road is a heavily traveled road. that traffic increased when Route 1 was closed, and people understood, or under construction, I should say, people understood that Hillendale Road paralleled Route 1. We watched the traffic, we watched the speed of the traffic, and we watched the overall operation of vehicles. That is not real good. At Hillendale Road Bridge, you go down a steep hill coming from the west. You make a sharp right turn, and then you make an immediate left turn. No sight distance. Approaching from the other side, the grading doesn't give you any sight distance at all. It's one of the reasons we had to close the walkway for the trail. So how can we accomplish all these things? Well, first of all, I also don't want to give up $2.2 million in revenue coming into this area of the township. That $2.2 million could be used to build a new bridge at Hillendale. The new concrete type that would not be as offensive because you can't view the area like you can view the area here, except for maybe some residents. You could incorporate the crosswalk. You could position the road, the bridge, differently because the borough owns most of the ground on the west side, and you'd have to take some ground on the east side. That could be negotiated. That will also give us a crossing for the trail, and then the trail could use the beautiful landscape of Chandler Mill Road. So there are several alternatives here. I don't know about the bridge abutments. I did climb under both bridges to see what was going on. I have some construction experience. One of the things that came out of the 106 hearing was that the main support beams of this bridge are basically shot. So you could take the bridge at Hillendale, you could put it in its place. You'd have to have some study and by an engineer on what the condition of the abutments is and what it would take to get them to support the Hillendale Road Bridge. But I'm also interested in seeing the weight restriction. Hillendale Road Bridge is 12 tons. For this area, that's fine, because 12 tons and 8 tons is not much scenario in a difference as far as the vehicle code is concerned with the size of the vehicles. They're both in just about the same classification. So, to me, that's either a good suggestion or it's a terrible one. It depends on how you view it. But it does a few things for the township all along. One of the things that was mentioned in the 106 hearing, and one of the reasons I'm even standing up here to mention this, because it is going to be offensive to some people, but I do my best, is that the engineers, both the PennDOT engineer and the county engineer, said somebody's going to have to go through this same issue with Hillendale Bridge in 20 years. Hillendale Road has been much better maintained. The county said they're going to maintain it much better than Chandler Mill has been maintained. So we kill a number of birds for one stone. That's it.
So are there questions for the chief? In the blue sweater.
John Mastropolito, Mastrpolito. You guys have been talking about it the whole time. What is the 106 for those of us who are not?
Okay, the 106 is a hearing required by PennDOT prior to a project to get the public statement. And that occurred here February 2nd, I think. And it started out real well, and that's where I learned the positions of. There were some people who wanted that bridge opened immediately. I will take Ralph Hunter's statement. Ralph Hunter was the former fire chief of the Kennett Fire Company. He was chief when I was there for about 20 years. He was a good fire chief, but Hartfelt wasn't there. Actually, I don't think much around Hill Road was there, and Falconsville wasn't there. The Kennett Fire Company comes out of Kennett Square if they respond from that area, which is true. And it goes down Chandler Mill, has to cross Chandler Mill Bridge to get to Hartfelt, or it adds those minutes. Now it would have to come down out of Kennett Square by Kaolin Road, go to Chandler Mill Road, make a right-hand turn, and go in that way. It does add time. I'm not as concerned about the fire, because that's property, as I am ambulances. Ambulance a minute counts. I mean, the equipment they have nowadays, they save a lot of lives, and we have to witness that daily. On the other side, and what they were talking about was, they have automatic response dispatch. If there's a fire reported on Bucktoe Road, even though it might be on the Avondale side, Avondale, 23, 24, which is Kennett, and 19, which is Hockessin, are automatically be dispatched. But that's not the ambulance issue. The ambulance issues, you can do a lot in a couple of minutes. Yes?
I have a question. The bridge was listed as 8 tons since the 1980s. No trucks have been allowed on the bridge. It's already posted by the Kennett Township. School buses are 11 to 15 tons. Fire trucks are 19 to 29 tons. Oil and concrete trucks are 36 tons. How could these fire trucks have ever gone over there if it's always been at 8 tons? And look at the tonnage we're talking about.
Okay, you're looking at it practically as 8 tons, that's the limit. You're not understanding the reason for the ton limit. The fire trucks are exempt. So are the school buses, I believe. One of the things they're concerned with is not simply the weight of the, excuse me, can I finish? Thank you. They're not simply talking about 8 tons transversing the bridge. They're talking about 8 tons hitting the bridge. And what I mean by that, the force of those tons hit that abutment, go across the span, and then hit the other abutment. They hit. There's movement. You can stand on the bridges and feel it. Yes, we hear it from buses. We hear it from fire trucks. But that might be 1 in 5 years occurrence. The school buses are every day. But the school bus's length, by the time that school bus is passed over, the front axle's off before the back axle hits. There's a lot of different engineering scenarios in this, and there's a lot to interpret on that tonnage rating.
Let me jump in for a second. Master Polito?
Yes.
Did you have your question answered about what is the 106?
Sort of, yes.
Okay.
It's fine. I mean, I figured it was a hearing that had happened already. I just didn't know if it was with the historical commission or if it was with...
It was done by PennDOT and the county, and it was mandated as part of the federal and state process for justifying what's to be done with the bridge. And there's a whole lot of nuances to what is involved, and Gwen has made reference to that a couple of different times. What was supposed to come out of that was any comments that people have were to be delivered to PennDOT and the county, and that was going to be compiled into a collection of documents that reflected all of what was discussed at that hearing, and the hearing, I guess, is what it was, and anything that's been added as additional thoughts, and then it's all accumulated and it goes to the officials who then have to act upon it. That was supposed to be done already. It hasn't been completed yet. This meeting tonight was called totally separate from the 106, had nothing to do with the 106. I was at that meeting, and it was clear to me that there were a lot of people that had concerns that they wanted to have expressed, and that they weren't being given the opportunity. It was very clearly, do it PennDOT's way, or take a walk. And there were a lot of people that were saying, do it our way, or you take a walk. And people don't communicate well when they take that kind of position to each other. So I wanted to give everybody in the township, and the surrounding area for that matter, the opportunity to have their concerns expressed. I can't do anything about the 106. And so anything that is presented in relation to the 106 may be informational as in context, but I'm not sending anything to the 106 people that we do tonight.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Does that help?
Yes, and thank you for the opportunity to have us speak.
Okay. Yes.
Jane Dorchester. Just to clarify, and one last time I apologize, what Section 106 is. It was actually triggered because Section 106 is Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966 as amended. It kicks in whenever there are federal funds, permits, or licenses involved in a project, and this being a PennDOT project, they use federal funds for their project, so that's what kicked into Section 106. So that's why they had the meeting in February. So I just wanted to clarify that for you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
T-L-O-R. E-L-L-O-R.
Oh, okay.
Very clever idea. Would you stand up, speak to everybody else?
Well,
answer in our heads. I'll look at you.
We wouldn't be interested in having any weight limit changes on the Hillendale Bridge either. Because there's so much tractor-trailer traffic going through there now. I know it's not supposed to, but it does. The number of times you've had to back trucks up to 5 Points,
Sure.
they got stuck in the field next to us, or whatever. We're not interested in any more tractor-trailer traffic on Hillendale Road either.
Well, the Hillendale Road Bridge is going to be replaced. What I'm saying is if you replace it now, I mean, the accidents we have, and are you aware of the one on Friday, Saturday? No, there's been a lot of accidents down there. And I know this is traffic calming, and unfortunately, trying to get all those groups together, as Mr. Stevens indicated, is a very difficult one. Somebody's going to have to suffer, and that's why I mentioned Jeff Whittle, because, he lives right there, right at the bridge. So, but there's got to be some give and take somewhere. Whittle.
Yes. Hi, Peter Gray.
Peter Gray?
Gray.
G-R-A-Y.
I live right along the, the south side of the bridge, 542 Chandler Mill Road. Albert, great idea. I wanted to address the first responder issue again. My wife and I, when the bridge was open, we used to have a gentleman's race out of our driveway when we left at the same time. I would go Chandler Mill, and she would go K-Owen, and we'd meet every time within 5 seconds at 5 Points. I can't.
No.
You're going right. Don't hang out of my house. No, but I don't get where that 7 minutes comes from, and I would really hope if somebody's coming to my house, that they would come down K1 Road, because I would think those trucks could get there faster that way. Just, my opinion.
I didn't come up with the 7 minutes. It was, I don't remember what it was timed. I don't remember it was one of the fire trucks that are 80,000 pounds, or it was a small one. I don't know. It was stated in the hearing. It wasn't really contested. It was in a report or something somewhere. But
No, it's 4, and it's an average that's been done. Some say 7, some say 3,
True.
so 4 is the average.
True. The other issue I didn't bring up, and the reason I want to see this stay pretty much like it is, and swapping the bridges out make that appearance is, I don't want to see any increases to traffic on Chandler Mill Road for another reason, and I haven't heard consider a lot, and that's Chandler Mill and K-Owen. There's enough traffic on K-Owen, we have enough problems there. Nobody mentioned to me doing anything with that intersection and fixing this bridge. So it's a natural calming effect.
Any other, yes?
It is roughly, depending upon how fast I'm driving, anywhere from 6 to 7. If you're going to Wilmington but not heading back towards 5 Points, my husband and I drive it every single day.
And I'm sorry, your name again.
Sandy, Sally, but not only is it first responders, and I appreciate that, but then also, the ambulance that's at your house then needs to backtrack if they're going to Christiana Care. And you mentioned Kellen, and this may have been mentioned at some other point, some other time, so I'm sorry for asking this question if it has been asked. The increased traffic on Kalen, and I'm sure traffic studies and accidents, there's one area that is an S-turn that sometimes when it's raining, I avoid that, and unfortunately I go through, is it Round Hill Road?
Yeah.
Just to avoid, and I apologize to those residents, but it's a very, very dangerous intersection when it's wet. Cars have hydroplaned, and it's sort of a blind corner, and so I am the one going through Round Hill Road as a result of the bridge being closed when it rains, because it is such a dangerous road.
Well, the township, this is a little off the subject, but while I'm here, the township pressured PennDOT into doing something with the surface of the S-turn a few years ago, to the point where the township agreed they're just going to go out and mill it, and that was part of my suggestions, because as soon as it rained, you couldn't even stand on that, but it was milled. That was milled. That's when the rumble strip got put down the center, speed limit got added. And one of the things that, from our counts, PennDOT said, well, we'll take this into consideration. They went out and they weren't even aware the traffic had increased that much because of the way their counts are done. It is a very busy road. Recently, we had the same issue. We went right back to the same PennDOT engineer. He came out there, we studied the surface again and found out we don't have the problem there, we have operator problem. So it's, again, it's leaks, so.
It's a bad turn.
It's a bad turn.
Are there any other questions for Chief? Thank you, Chief, for that creative idea. We need to work on that. That takes care of the first three presentations we had on the list. Now I have some more that are people that have signed up. This is the order that I have them. And what I would like you to do when you present is to do it from up here at the podium. So I have Paige Minka, and sure, go on up. And then we have after that is Nick Ferencas. Is it Ferencas? Ferencia. Thank you. Then we have Ron Bernardo, but he's on the phone, right? And then we have Gwen.
Now, basically what that is, let me just explain. This is for the Chandler Mill Bridge Consortium. Presentations are being given by Paige and Nick. Paige works with us, and Nick is an intern for the consortium. And so they're going to give the presentations, and what we wanted to do is we made 40 copies to hand out, so you can share these so you can go along with the presentation.
Yes, P-A-I-G. Minka,
Share, that would be great, because we have 40 copies. And they'll be available on our website, on the last services website for the Bridge Consortium as well in the next day or so. We'll get those up for you.
Yo, hi, how are you? You've been
Why don't we get started here?
There's two presentations being handed out. There's one on, and I'll just give you a background. The one that Paige is going to do has this photo on the front. Excuse me, no. It has this photo with preservation and ecological implications. There's two different ones, and it looks like eventually you're going to see both. One is looking at the ecological, obviously, implications, and the second, and I hope you will stay for it, is all about the cost and lots of things that have been discussed tonight about insurance, rehab, all of that.
We don't have it. Well, can we get started?
Everyone should have two different ones now. You just want to take them and pass them? There's two presentations.
Everybody else does.
Babe, did you get started?
Yeah. So as Glenn mentioned, my name is Paige Minka. I'm going to be representing the Chandler Mill Bridge Consortium and talking about the preservation ecological implications of the Chandler Mill Bridge issue. For those of you not familiar with the consortium, It's a group of concerned residents. I'm a local resident of the Chandler Mill Bridge. Biking clubs, walking clubs, land trust, any kind of water, historic, conservation organizations. So a large group of people in the community. So it's first important to note, obviously, as we all know, this bridge is located in Chester County. And for those of you not familiar with these two facts that are pretty astounding, Chester County contains the least amount of forested land in Pennsylvania, and is also the second fastest urbanizing area in Pennsylvania, next to the Poconos, which is important in this matter to keep the historic and ecological integrity of the county. So, although we've been through this, the basic background of the Chandler Mill Bridge, built in 1910, was placed on the National Register of Historic Places and is an integral structure to the Red Clay Conservation Corridor, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So again, April 17th, 2007, the consortium's engineers determined that the bridge could be taken back to its correct carrying capacity, so long as there were replacements of the deck and the girder of the bridge. May 6, 2011, the bridge was deemed unsafe and was closed, and 2 years later, here we are, and as we know, still closed. So daily activities on the Chandler Mill Bridge, since it's been closed for those residents living around the area, there has been an increase in pedestrian traffic from running, biking, and that's due to the obvious decrease in vehicular traffic. The roads around that area are quite small and windy, so this was a nice choice for most pedestrian activity. And as I mentioned, the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor is a keystone structure in the bridge is a keystone structure in the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor. It's a part, in the corridor there's the trail network, which is part of the Red Clay Greenway Trail, and is also included on the Chester County Planning Commission's Bikeway Network. So the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor is the largest contiguous preserved area in Kennett Township. Already there's been over $5 million invested to date through historic preservation, open space preservation, and trail creation. Like I mentioned, the Red Clay Greenway Trail, which I'm going to talk about in 1 second as well. It's in walking distance from many of the homeowners associations and the Kennett Borough. It's been designated by Audubon as an important bird area, and also adjacent to the bridge and right up to the bridge is the Bucktoe Creek Preserve, which holds environmental education programming through the Land Conservancy for Southern Chester County, the Delaware Nature Society, and research done by the Stroud Water Research Center. So as I mentioned, the Bucktoe Creek Preserve, which is located right
this whole area in green there.
So the mission of the Bucktoe Creek Preserve is to provide a stable environment for flora and fauna, environmental education for citizens, and a site for fostering environmental education. The diversity found at Bucktoe Creek Preserve includes upland forests, riparian corridors, grassland, lowland swamps, forested woodlands, and continuing work and farming areas. There's plentiful butterfly species, amphibian species, countless amounts of birds. As I said, it's designated an important bird area, and then other countless mammals located there. The designation through Audubon as an important bird area was due to the wood thrush breeding density, which I'm also going to talk about in just a minute. Program hosting, so there's probably on average 3 to 5 programs going on there per week, open to the public, and for most of you that live there may know about it, but it's mostly right in your back door. And also it has participated in the Cornell Bird Study for the last 30 years. So again, the Audubon's important bird area, 12 of Audubon's important species are found here. 5 are commonly found within the preserve and surrounding Chandler Mill Bridge areas. So ecological impacts of the road. Not only does, I'm going to talk about two abiotic factors and biotic factors. So anything from hydrology, sediment, debris transport, water and air chemistry, microclimate. So all of this, we mentioned earlier, if the bridge does happen to somehow be destroyed and fallen into the creek there, those short-term impacts, you have to compare those also to these long-term impacts of vehicular traffic and what kind of sedimentation and chemicals leaking into the stream right along Chandler Mill Road will also have an effect. So this is, the cost is equally as important, but I think it's important to consider the wildlife surrounding the road and the bridge as well. Also, this road, with increase in traffic on the Chandler Mill Road, also will play a factor in habitat fragmentation, which is a big issue with counties becoming more populated. Like I mentioned in the beginning, it's the second fastest urbanizing county in Pennsylvania. And habitat fragmentation will often lead to smaller populations that aren't able to traverse across heavy populated roads. Therefore, the smaller population leads to inbreeding, which can in result lead to extinction and genetic mutations, etc. So this is something, they're really trying to work on through different research organizations, how to allow corridors for this wildlife to flourish. And then, of course, sources of mortality being roadkill. In the United States, roadkill has surpassed hunting in its effects on vertebrate mortality, and then also it creates this increased traffic on this road will create a barrier for migration routes of certain migrating species. So noise pollution. So prior to the closing of the Chandler Mill Bridge, there were approximately 600 cars traveling this road daily, and of course, since the closing of the bridge, it has decreased significantly. Animals most significantly impacted by road noise, of course, would be birds. So the impacts of anthropogenic noise. Birds use acoustic signaling as an integral part of their daily activities, anything from territorial defenses, mating, predator detection, general orientation, navigation, and plenty of other things we could list. And it just so happens that most road traffic occurs about the same frequency at which birds communicate. So there's been a lot of studies done dealing with this masking effect where certain bird species will make adaptations to their vocalization, whether that be just the change in frequency, actually shifting the territory in which they reside, and often even ceasing to vocalize at all, which can, of course, in turn lead to alterations in genetic, defensive, and breeding reproductive costs, and then, of course, again, in turn, lead to the decline in the species richness and diversity. So have you seen me lately? These are some of the birds, important birds found in the vicinity of the bridge, need your hub protection, and are part of the Audubon designated bird species. So first we have the American woodcock, the black-throated warbler, and as I listed, you can see on the PowerPoint there some of the breeding, or some of the habitat requirements, such as floodplain forests, which are all abundant at Bucktoe Creek Preserve. One of which is right actually next to the bridge. Canada warbler, swamp sparrow, and then back to the wood thrush, which is why Audubon was able to designate this an important bird area due to the high breeding density. Gold-winged warbler is under review for endangered species. This has been located at Bucktoe Creek Preserve. And then here's 5 more that are a little bit less commonly found, but still has been recorded at Bucktoe Creek Preserve. The cerulean warbler, another candidate for the endangered species list. And then finally the barred owl, which has actually been absent from Bucktoe Creek Preserve for the past 15 years, and since the closing of the bridge has been spotted, and it really is preferred habitat for the species due to the prefers to hunt via road and corridors like that, but with increased traffic will obviously play an impact. So this kind of quiet road with little traffic would be great for the survival of the species. So really, as you can see, that basically what that's saying is increased traffic and noise pollution will have an effect on all those species I just listed and many more. Even, beyond birds, stream-dwelling species which stream runs right across the Chandler Mill Bridge will have a big effect. So this is something else to consider in the fate of the Chandler Mill Bridge. And then I did mention the Red Clay Greenway, which is another part of the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor. It's a 10-mile trail loop in Kennett Square with access to and from downtown Kennett and following the east and west branches of the Red Clay Creek. This includes TLC preserved lands and connects to residential areas, homeowners associations, other trail networks, scenic roadways, and then also the Kennett Borough. So this is a great recreation opportunity for runners, walkers. You can see here walking the Red Clay Greenway Trail. And here is a proposed map of the Red Clay Greenway. In green, you can see this is existing TLC, the Land Conservancy, and other preserved trails. The blue is proposed for the Red Clay Greenway. The red, you can see up there, is Anseby Nixon Park. That's already existing trails. And then over here again is our state line woods, and in the red box there is the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor. So the Red Clay Greenway quality of life, in addition to making connections to the township, it will also have connections to eastern and western trails, such as the White Clay Creek trails, the East Coast Greenway, which you can see right here. So this is the eastern connection. If you can see down in the lower left corner here is the Red Clay Greenway, and then these are all the northeastern trails that it would also connect to. Again, the proposed Red Clay Greenway up kind of in the center there, and then below you can see the White Clay Creek trails that it would also connect to. So there's the Red Clay Greenway proposed trail, White Clay Creek trails that it would connect to. So giving much more than a 10-mile trail. Homeowners associations within the Red Clay Greenway, which are listed, which you can see on your PowerPoints actually, that we handed out. So there's approximately about just over 1,000 homeowners associations or homeowners listed there. So this would actually, this proposed trail would be accessible by all of these associations. The map's not in there, but you can see the map on the following page there. So all the homeowners associations are listed in the gray and black outline there. So the Chandler Mill pedestrian bridge, the consortium, which again is composed of residents, outdoor clubs, historic organizations, land organizations, proposes that the Chandler Mill Bridge remain closed to traffic and become a pedestrian multi-use trail bridge as an integral segment of the Red Clay Greenway. So part of this Red Clay Greenway creation, if was made pedestrian, we would be able to create a picnic and parking area on Chandler Mill Road, which you can see in this sketch on your PowerPoint. And this would be a place for people to access the Red Clay Greenway if the trail wasn't accessible, from where they were coming from. Parking and picnic area along the trail within proximity to the historic bridge. It would be right along the curve there. And this would also be a great spot for bird watching and other Bucktoe Creek Preserve educational programming. And also the Chandler Mill pedestrian option would allow for emergency access for vehicles, which would include a dry hydrant, turnaround area built to the township standards, and if needed, would be able to raise phone and cable wires and also clear vegetation.
You can see all these sketches on yours.
On your PowerPoint, yeah.
So you don't need to follow what up there instead of.
So the minimal cost to maintain the pedestrian bridge, after research through the consortium, would be to convert the estimates to convert the pedestrian bridge would be $50,000. The maintenance the yearly maintenance would be about $1,600, which you can see listed there in your chart. So the cost component to the community to demolish and replace with a 2-lane bridge would be almost 20 times the cost of the pedestrian bridge. The other downside would be increased traffic along Chandler Mill Road, fragmentation of habitat, which I mentioned earlier, loss of the trail system and the Red Clay Greenway, decrease in home values, increase in noise pollution and road pollution, and a loss of connection to the Chester County history. So there are many benefits to having a pedestrian bridge, some are the opposite of what I just mentioned, but it enhances home values. Homes within a close proximity to open space are estimated to increase in value around $10,000. Environment, which I've been talking about, avoids fragmentation of habitat, migratory routes for birds and wildlife, and also reduction in noise and trash pollution. Also, it provides a scenic for the rural feel of the township, and also for the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor. Safety, it's a decrease in traffic involving the Chandler Mill Road, permitting safer access for the Kennett Township to the Red Clay Greenway. Recreation is another benefit, access for the public to use the parking and the picnic area for bird watching along the Chandler Mill Road, which again is in your sketch on your PowerPoint. Cost, it also saves taxpayers the cost of the replacement, increased maintenance, liability, and potential future replacement of the bridge. And then finally, again, history. So it's a part of a larger local historic district and a story of Chester County's history. And then also there you can see the accidents of the intersection of Chandler Mill and Kaolin Road and the timeline there. And that's all. Thank you.
District 111, the Red Clay Greenway is back here with the $5 million that's been put in for governmental and private funding. Another sketch over here shows the proposed. We're proposing, we have private donors who are willing to donate land for a right-of-way and a parking and picnic area to make a park there with the Chandler Mill as a pedestrian bridge, if it's pedestrian. There's a rendering of it there, and that's the Red Clay Greenway that we spoke about on the back, the map here. The maps are also available on the table outside, as well as all the information on the Bucktail Creek Reserve. If you haven't visited, please. There's all kinds of programming going on, astronomy, bird watching. It's on the back table as you leave as well.
May we go back to questions per page, please? Yes.
My name is Chris Burkett, B-U-R-K-E-T-T. So is it the idea that the Land Conservancy would then take over ownership of a pedestrian bridge?
That's not the proposed idea of now, no.
Okay.
It's the township, we're asking the township.
Okay, so you're looking at land around it that you would donate, but the fiscal responsibility would remain with the township.
For the bridge.
For the bridge, yes.
Right, and you had a couple numbers in there about $50,000 for a pedestrian bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have some kind of backup for that?
Yeah, actually, the next presentation is going to dive much deeper into the cost of the what it would take to remain or turn to pedestrian versus the 2-lane bridge. So if you want to save your questions for the next presentation to see if they're answered, if not, we can answer that after for you.
Okay, there was another number that you had in your report, your spreadsheet, or PowerPoint, that property values would increase by $10,000 because they're located near a trail or an open space. But these properties are already located near trails and open space. I don't understand the benefit of that and where maybe that number came from.
Well, I guess to start, the idea that the Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor would then be, I guess, fulfilled by being able to be connected to other open areas would be the idea. But if Glenn wants to...
You know, I put my name on there so that I could help interject for these. And to answer your question, right now there are just segments of the Red Clay Greenway. This is a proposed 10-mile trail, and there's open space. What we would be doing if we keep it a pedestrian bridge, we would make to complete the trails, and they would be open to the public. So therefore, you are increasing your value, and it's Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission reports on the back table as well.
In the back.
Gary Sorensen, S-O-R-E-N-S-O-N. First question is about the walkways. Right now, Bucktoe Preserve is not open to the public. It is if you go special things Saturday morning, but it's not an open trailway. Are you saying if you get this bridge closed, they would then open this up to the public?
Not the entire preserve along the perimeter, along the road of Chandler Mill and Bucktoe Road. Yes, there'd be a nice big loop there.
And that's dependent on you getting the road closed?
No, because the bridge is the keystone for this pedestrian bridge.
The bridge could be walked over right now. I mean, if you're really going to open this to the public, what is stopping you? You're saying this is kind of like blackmail?
Demolition and a two-lane bridge.
I'm sorry, say it again. What was your
And the
answer?
next question is...
I didn't get your answer to that.
She said demolition of the
And two lanes, demolition and two lanes.
All right, thank
This is the alternative to demolition and two lanes.
Okay, thank you.
You talked about 600 vehicles not going up Chandler Mill. How much of that has now gone on Bucktoe, which is also right on the side of Bucktoe Preserve? So 600 vehicles didn't go away. Quite a few of them are on the other side of Bucktoe. Have you looked at the increase in Bucktoe? Or you looked at just Chandler Mill going
No,
down?
we looked at the whole area, and one thing that's come up is a lot of the traffic that you're seeing is actually people that already live there. So people that aren't cutting through Chandler Mill. Most of the
Correct.
traffic increase, if you hear of Brownfield, there are already people that live there.
I agree with the Chandler Mill part. I'm saying when you looked at what's not going down Chandler Mill, did you look how much is now coming down Bucktoe? I lived on Chandler Mill between the bridge and Kalen. So everything you diverted to Bucktoe is now coming past me. I don't pick up at the T intersection, so we see a slight reduction, but we don't see 600 reduction. Because a lot of people that used to turn down now continue on until they get to Bucktoe. You know, they come down Bucktoe to get to
They go to Giant, is what I've heard. Everybody that's cutting through is going up to Giant on Bucktoe. Or taking 41.
So the answer is you haven't looked at increased traffic on other roads, you just looked at the next.
That's the next question.
Any other questions for Paige? In the back.
Page, Charles Shattuck.
Charles.
Given your Shattuck, S-H-A-T-T-U-C-K, given your scenario of car noise pollution on birds, what have the surveys at Bucktoe shown for the last 5 years? An increase or a decrease given the closing of the bridge?
An increase or a decrease of?
The birds you showed that were endangered from excessive noise pollution.
Well, specifically, like I mentioned, the barred owl,
That's one bird.
the wood thrush, all of those that are mentioned there have been, we have notes from 106 comments from the researchers at Bucktoe Creek Preserve that have listed an increase in, and mentioned all of those birds listed there, so.
They've all
So
increased,
that's-
they've all increased just on Bucktoe in the last 3 years since the bridge is closed.
Your original question was 5 years. But go ahead.
So I guess my point, what I'm trying to say is that all the birds that are listed there were given to us through researchers at Bucktoe,
Okay.
that are important bird species that would be affected due to noise pollution. Is that answering your question? Specifically the barred owl and the wood thrush, but all that were listed. There's more than that species in that list that are located at Bucktoe. Those were just the ones that we did happen to have numbers on that we picked out.
Right, but did they increase?
Yes. Right. That's why we have them in there. Yeah.
Any other questions for Paige? Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Nick?